can actually add
Sorry about that.
in terms of GBS organizations. So really, if we look at the trends and the massively growing market opportunity for GBS, 4,859 GBS offshore centers overall globally, and 2.4 million in terms of FTEs with 11% CAGR in terms of GBS headcount. 13% of global workforce, that is GBS FTEs. I mean, these are like humongous numbers. But the most interesting thing here is 61% of them are actually new in-house centers set up by first-time adopters. So I found this fairly interesting that, close to 3,000 organizations, GBS organizations have been set up. This is an H1 2023, which is not too, dated research. 61% are new in-house centers set up by first-time adopters. And I think this is interesting because most organizations, I think, in the last about 2 to 3 years have been increasingly looking at getting a control and their hands around internal operational processes and what kind of impact that it might have from an organization, value creation perspective. And I think some of these numbers are really reflective of this, but several research reports will, and I'll present some of them to you, is just showing the huge growth that is still ahead in the journey. So maybe I'll share with you some of the research and some of the country-led, specific, I would say, data points on that. 476 new in-house GBS setups over 2022 H1 to 2023, and 27% of GBS centers are really offshore, nearshore, GBS centers. 76% are still located in tier 1 cities. But again, there is an increasing trend to look at tier 2 and a lot of nearshoring as well in some cases, led by the onset of digital. In terms of geographies, and this is an Everest research of 2023, which says that from a maturity perspective of geographies, when analyzed from the perspective of GBS market size by head count and financial attractiveness, India stands at the leading edge of the curve with an average of about 1,000 to 1,500 headcounts per GBS. And the media has been covering massively about the growing trend of GBS organizations in India, and coming up on the next slides are some data points relating to that. But this is a story that's set to, I think, grow and expand even further. We're already at the extreme end of the maturity curve on that. But if you look at markets like, say, established locations like Spain, for instance, where GBS center setups grew by 20% year on year, given the location attractiveness to offer a good gateway to Europe and LATAM countries, Spain looks extremely attractive, not only from a from a talent perspective, but also presents relatively lower risk for GBS organization from a location standpoint. And coming up here is Portugal from emerging location perspective, with a year-on-year growth of about 12% in GBS setup, and Portugal is showing also, extremely good growth here. But here another interesting one on the mature location bit is Poland, which with some of the largest GBS locations, especially from a nearshore perspective, offering a very attractive destination, given that they also have a very multilingual workforce. Poland seems to be also coming up as a mature, location set to leverage this entire trend. But from a bubble perspective, given that the growth year on year, growth seems to be relatively lesser. But these are some of the countries that's seeing a lot of rising trend in terms of GBS. This is the India story here with 1,580 GBSs as of 2022. We're set to grow to about 1,900 plus, and some research reports are talking about 2,200 plus GBS by 2025 March, which is almost like next financial year, given that India follows a typical financial year of April to March cycle. On an average, we are seeing about 11 to 15 GBSs set up every week. The talent pool is set to grow to over 2+ million in terms of GCC or GBS talent pool, and 35 to 40% of overall share in terms of real estate leasing, with some of the leading sectors, what is being displayed out here. But the kind of growth that we are seeing in terms of still US and Europe market contributing to GBSs, and now increasingly in the last about 1 year, the Middle East countries also led by Saudi, UAE, are actually setting up a lot of GBSs in the country here. So tier 2, tier 3 locations, as well as tier 1 for those who are interested, who can invest significantly in digital. I think there's significant propensity and growth, which is coming up also from an India marketplace perspective. From a functional business process standpoint, if we were to analyze, the ones in blue are really established functions, while the ones represented by the orange icon are really emerging functions. And so no surprise here that functional business processes like F&A, HR, procurement, supply chain, from an IT perspective, application development, automation, cloud, data analytics, infra, and core operations for the respective industry vertical, coupled with, say, even customer center or engineering research. These have been, hitherto established functions, but from an emerging functions perspective, a lot of, operational processes. Pretty much companies are talking about anything in the line item in the expense side in a P&L, which is, say, minus of manufacturing, and to some extent, say, R&D and quality, perhaps. Pretty much every line item, like, say, a contract and legal. Some companies that we've spoken to have established treasury as a part of GBS, sales and marketing, real estate, corporate communications, and from an IT services perspective, and some of the next slides will show that from IT services, AI, ML, blockchain, data analytics, cybersecurity, all of these functions are getting consolidated into a GBS. ESG, GRC, these are emerging functions that several organizations are talking about to set up, GBSs. Now, here is an interesting trend that talks about, what is the offshore to nearshore, and I've been curious to know how this whole trend is emerging with respect to outsourcing versus captives. I've been hearing a lot of conversations around organizations moving from outsourced to captive since, say, 2017-18, but increasingly the conversations are and this research is actually, another Hackett research report that's saying that most of the corporate functions are largely captive. They're largely in-house, and they're largely captives. But when we look at IT services over here, the change in propensity to in-house, the ones in green are really high propensity, and the ones in dark green are really significantly, increase in terms of propensity. So IT services, IT infra, digital services, analytics, as we see, is at the extreme, green end, which really says that in terms of change in penetration for digital services, analytics, IT infra, ADM, most of these functions are actually getting back to in-house. A lot of these trends are also led by digital, given that there has been a significant proliferation of emerging technologies in the last about 5 to 6 years, which has really led to enterprises wanting to have more control in terms of the governance and quality of the business processes for them to deliver it with excellence by leveraging digital. And I think some of these trends are reflective in terms of outcomes, as we're seeing on these slides. So the case is around cost, but cost has been a conversation which is evident. But going forward, I think it's more about controls. It's more around value creation opportunities for organizations to set up your own GBSs, and to deliver them in the most compelling, manner. Over 600 plus decision makers across Global 2000 reveals that nearly 50% are happily focused on cost savings today, but it is expected to halve in the next 2 to 3 years. So the conversations are really trending around value creation, are around contribution to the growth to the business. And I think those are really leading conversations that we are also having in terms of, our ongoing discussions with customers. The new focus is around genuine business transformation to provide data faster, smarter, to enable decision making. So the availability of data to deliver analytics and insights to the business in a much more proactive manner, so that decisions are made proactively by the business is something that most GBS organizations are focusing on. So can business process really be a source of competitive advantage, and how can GBSs really enable that? That's the interesting question that most organizations are speaking about. From the alternatives available when examined on parameters of cost efficiency, standardization, high quality, reliable services, and customer service, when examined from the perspective of decentralized, centralized, outsourced, and shared services, or GBS, I think it's a no-brainer that all of this are on the higher end of the curve. And many of you may have experienced it being GBS leaders yourself. From the perspective of cost efficiency to standardization, is a no-brainer. High quality, reliable service, controls, governance, quality of the process, and customer service to be able to deliver that process in the most effective manner and meet SLA deliverables of the business, whether it's a cost center or a profit center model, is something that GBS organizations are in a position to do best. So simple centralization versus shared services, and how these really differentiate. And we do hear for these new time GBS organizations which are setting up for the first time, some of these, getting this fact right, getting these concepts right becomes really imperative. And as we've already seen, 61% of, say, the 4,900 plus GBS organizations are actually first timers in GBS setup. So we are actually having conversations with them to help them envision that GBS. What should be the chargeback or service pricing? Should it be cost center, profit center? What should it be really looking like? Because these two have, I would say, ongoing impact from an ability to invest, and also from a talent perspective, and the whole orientation around how the GBS culture is therefore created, depending on the vision for the shared services as well as how this is really set up. Customer focus, value-oriented services portfolio, SLAs, chargeback mechanisms, but GBS leaders, of course, I mean, that becomes a moot decision point in terms of who should be the GBS leader and how that person is able to actually drive the vision for that GBS. In fact, create, conceptualize, and drive that vision for the GBS are extremely important strategic decisions that corporate boards need to take. And these are important decisions as enterprises are looking to invest in their own GBSs. Continuous performance measurement from a cost, quality, timeliness, customer value, customer sat perspective, continuous improvement, competitive service, to continually monitor what kind of alternatives really exist, and is the GBS delivering, the very best to the organization from a competitive service perspective. I think these are really important decision points. So the most effective GBS has almost run like their own business when done well. And that's the whole difference between, say, setting up a GBS versus simple centralization. But like I mentioned, we are having increasing conversations around for organizations who are getting back to captives. And I'd love to hear your viewpoints on this, maybe in ongoing conversations that we can set up subsequently. Do you agree? Are you seeing a lot of organizations getting back to captives? What kind of trends are you really seeing? I'd love to hear from you, because we are getting a sense that several organizations which had hitherto outsourced want to set up their own GBSs, given that they want to look at accelerating quality of service delivery. And they prefer an internally led transformation where they own the people, process, the entire technology, the governance, the quality aspect of it. So they're also wanting to leverage GBS to take care of all the proximity to cost, labor pool. I think talent is available in abundance. There is a whole plethora of technologies which are available today. And from a functional process expertise, several geographical locations present very compelling talent from a functional process understanding and the complexity of the process understanding. So So moving from outsourced to captives and nearshoring is another trend. Like we saw some of these locations like Spain and Portugal, for instance. Nearshoring is increasing momentum as well, led by digital adoption and automation possibilities. At this point, I just want to launch a poll. Can you just initiate the poll for me, Abhinav?
Sure.
Where we really want to understand, if you already have a GBS, what kind of functional business processes are there as a part of your GBS. So if you could, just respond to this poll, that would be great.
Yeah, there are just 3 questions. Will take about 2 minutes. So please.
No, I think we'll just launch the first one for now.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll end the poll here and, publish results. So clearly P2P, O2C, R2R, HR, but definitely P2P and R2R are leading the trend here with several in IT as well. And legal and contracts, there isn't any GBS, which anyone has responded to. There's no legal and contracts in GBS. All right, so GBS driving business value and cost savings and efficiencies, labor arbitrage were the GBSs of the past, but in the future, we're going to see a lot of focus around GBS driving business outcomes, driven by process, domain expertise, end-to-end process scope. So really not talking about the downstream process necessarily only relating to AP or AR or, aspects of, JVs or recons and task management, say, for example, in the R2R process, but looking at end-to-end process scope in these various functions. So that kind of trend is massively increasing. Focusing on new sources of value creation by leveraging digital, by leveraging emerging technologies, and ensuring that the GBS is able to leverage that data flow across the organization and present compelling analytics to the business. This is another major trend and emerging trend in the next 2 to 3 years. That's a kind of trend with respect to, moving, I would say, further down from cost savings into really value creation-led opportunities. In terms of year-on-year improvements by GBS from a business value and operational excellence perspective across the dimensions of quality, customer service, operating cost, and productivity, digital world-class GBSs versus peer group is what this is trying to showcase, and the huge propensity for digital world-class organizations to present better outcomes across these various dimensions versus their peer groups. Likewise, from a value creation across aspects of working capital, cost avoidance, analytics for decision-making, procurement spend optimization, company restructuring, operating margin improvement, and M&A. When we look at, how digital world-class organizations are comparing versus their peer group, especially in some of the areas like, say, working capital or cost avoidance. And if you see the orange bars here, that really represents significant differentiators coming in from world-class organizations versus their peer group. So across the spectrum of working capital, cost avoidance to procurement, spend optimization, and company restructuring, these are 4 areas where there is a significant difference between digital world-class organizations versus their peer groups. From GBS strategic objectives, whether it is aligning with business goals of the organization, reducing operating cost, to delivering high quality services, portfolio, digital transformation, compliance focus, customer intimacy, agility focus, reducing cycle time to the process, delivering more with less or same is something that world-class organizations are delivering far ahead in the curve with the rest, across these various strategic objectives versus their peer group. The common services delivered by SSE today, and several of these are operational, functional processes. We see aspects of regulatory, compliance, R&D, to even some of the GBSs we have engaged with have been talking about treasury as well. facilities management for that matter, real estate. But IT shared services is also seeing a fair share of traction to embed even elements of emerging technologies like AI, ML, like analytics, like cybersecurity, all of these aspects, even protection of PII information for that matter, coming into a GBS organization. Master data, of course, we can't see this here, but master data is again a very good process of, and organizations which have done this well, taking master data into their GBS, have delivered in a superior manner for the organization. I think that extends across, the real insights and analytics piece, given that they managed to maintain a very clean master. So that's really extended in terms of, repercussion, the benefits across the organization to deliver superior analytics. From a payback perspective for these newer GBS organizations, they typically recover 50% within the first 3 years. Most respondents have actually recovered their investment, with about 50% who have recovered it in sub 2 years. From a productivity perspective, at least a 5 to 10%, anywhere from a 5 to 10%, but at least a 5% productivity improvement is what they've seen in their GBS organizations. So the major trends that we are seeing in terms of, what are the trends in terms of GBS? Service differentiation. So we've already seen FP&A analytics, profitability analytics, looking at judgment-based work being taken on by GBS, beyond just taking just transactional work. Preparing for a permanently hybrid future because of market uncertainty. So GBS organizations want to be prepared, to be able to transition as required, build a resilient organization, and leverage technologies, including accelerating efficiency with hyper automation. This is actually linked to the resilience in terms of the delivery and SLA and commitments to the organization, and broadening service offerings to include additional functional business processes. These are the 4 major trends that we are seeing in our conversations. From an industry perspective, the most important GBS objectives versus the top 3 critical development areas, if this were to be analyzed in terms of confidence and ability to meet business expectations, and from a GBS capability gap metrics on this 2x2 dimension, the top 4 objectives would be value delivery to the organization, internal stakeholder satisfaction, acting as a strategic business partner, and cost efficiency, agility. These are some of the GBS objectives. From a critical development, clearly GBS analytical capability, enterprises want to get there, but I think this is somewhere a work in progress, and we have not seen too many very mature GBS organizations which have really, scored extremely well on this. There's still a lot of work in progress elements. GBS digital transformation, upgradation of skill and talent, and this building in a very resilient GBS organization in confluence of, some of these pillars is what are some of the areas of development that we are seeing enterprises focus on. Differentiating with digital across these various pillars of efficiency, experience, agility, effectiveness, capability, profitability. And when compared was in terms of digital world-class to peer groups, across these various pillars, there is high, gap, as we can see here. Efficiency, 75% of digital world-class organizations report efficiency as, as their key metric and what they've succeeded, versus their peer group, which is just at 34%. Likewise, when we talk about experience, agility, and effectiveness, these 4 dimensions, there is a huge gap between how digital world-class organizations, GBS organizations, are performing versus their peer group. And when we talk about digital adoption across these various digital tools and technologies, whether it's RPA, advanced analytics, process mining, task mining, agile orchestration tools, chatbots, smart data capture, AI, cognitive computing, there is a lot of conversation going on around what kind of functional process use cases could be picked for GBS organizations to leverage AI. And in that, we have developed a few materials that may be of use to you. So do let us know if you'd like to see that, or you'd like to walk us through it, and we'd be happy to do that. But they've actually examined some of the interesting functional business process areas in GBS organizations that could be beneficial by leveraging AI. So some of the pilots we've already initiated, and this may be something interesting for you. While I'm sure for the rest of the items, I'm sure, in one way or the other, maybe you are at various stages of maturity in terms of adoption, or you are probably at the mature stage in terms of value realization. But from an AI ML perspective, from especially on AI use cases and Gen AI use cases, we have uh, we have done this analysis, and we can present that across to you. So what do we do in terms of Avali's GBS competency? We do three things. We help companies set up captive shared services. So could be greenfield, or mature their existing GBS or shared service. So if they have one or two functions and they really need to build their vision to deliver a multifunctional GBS, we do lay down a roadmap in terms of what kind of functional business processes could be transitioned into their GBS. And how should they be executing? So we do consulting with respect to definition of to-be processes, evaluating numerous technologies in the context of whatever investments that they have put in, and helping them to make the right technology decision, as well as walk the talk to the handholding, change management, support, enhancements, and so on, to make the change management happen. But given that we've been doing this for the last about 8-9 years, we have come across really very good GBS leaders as well. So for some of these new first-time GBS setups who want to, start afresh and start from a clean slate, and we do support them also to to hire good GBS leaders to look at setting up the vision for them. So those are some of the areas we've done all kinds of projects across industries. So for GMR, which is actually India's one of India's largest infra providers in the ECNO space, the engineering construction operation space. They own airports, and they have done a lot of work around highways and roadways and so on. So for GMR, when they decided to transition from an outsource to a captive shared services, we came in there as a partner for them to enable that transition, and delivered that outcome for them in about 18 months. And I think there is a webinar by the GMR GBS leader sometime next week. So I'm not sure if that's good for your time zone, but we will make sure that we'll share that invite with you in case you're keen to attend. Happy to love to have you there. However, we'll definitely share the recording. If you want to see the recording, do let us know. So that's GMR. So likewise, many of these, for example, Ministry of Petroleum in India, when they wanted to set up a shared services for AP, we helped them to set that up, and went live on this project in March of 2022. So over 18,000 plus suppliers are now able to engage with Oil India, and they've been able to deliver a beautiful after scenario where the cycle time to process supplier payments, as well as engage with suppliers via the supplier collaboration platform called Velocious, which is our sourcing and supplier collaboration platform, which has also been deployed at Oil India. This has led to superior outcomes in terms of cycle time reduction with suppliers. That's on Velocious. We also do a lot of work on digital workplace. So helping deliver superior stakeholder experiences within the organization, workflow automation, say capture through to workflows, records management, rights management, digital signature, and the confluence of these technologies to deliver superior outcomes in terms of cycle time reduction, paperless office initiatives. Those are some of the key areas that we focus on for digital workplace. So we did one interesting engagement with Bidco Africa, where we helped them to set up their greenfield shared services in 2017, and they took a very aggressive approach. They were very convinced with the GBS business model. So they said they would want to take most of the operational business processes, including at that point, they took, HR, treasury, AP, AR, master data, supplier onboarding, all of these R2R processes into their GBS model. We did the consulting here, helped them to set up the to-be process, defined the workflows, automated the entire end-to-end process, and that was a 2.5+ year-long engagement. But in September of 2020, when we went back to them as a part of the ongoing governance, there's a very compelling case study out there where they're saying that they're continuing to see incremental returns even to the extent of 70% for master data, and the minimum being about 40%, 40 to 70% cycle time reduction and cost benefits they're still continuing to see. We also do a lot of automation work, so which is very intrinsic to GBS setups. So leveraging process mining, task mining, automation, IDP, the intelligent document processing and analytics to deliver end-to-end automation journeys. So in that context, over 200 plus processes is what we automated for India's largest construction equipment manufacturer called Tata Hitachi, or for that matter, we've done work in other geographies as well, including in the UAE, where we set up for Mediclinic their GBS and leveraged a confluence of technologies to automate their business process. So the geographies we serve are really Asia, of which India is a good portion, and the Middle East, in parts of Europe, and in the US. So we serve customers across geographies. There are numerous case studies which we will share, post this call. I do want to reserve at least about 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A. So we will share with you several of these success stories and the slide deck, which has more details around what kind of outcomes we've delivered. There are at least about 15 to 20 success stories out here. But in the interest of time, if you do have any questions, do feel free to use the chat button or the Q&A button and ask those questions. In any case, we will be setting up further conversations with you. If you want for us to share any research reports or any materials on this front, please do let us know, and we'd be happy to do that as well. Yes, hi Sanchala, do you have a question? Please, if you could, type your question on the chat window or the Q&A window.
If it's okay, we can allow to talk.
Yes, of course, yes.
Sanchala, please go ahead. Yeah, I think you can just unmute and yeah.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, just a small question. Basically, curious to know, because setting up of a shared services normally, any manufacturing or any industry, they look for a big fours like Deloitte or PwC or this kind of big company, big company. So, as a setting of shared service, either captive or a GBS, where do we stand as a process oriented companies like you, or any other startups, or any other companies which are in the making of shared service migration transformation processes? Where do we stand is what I would like to know about it.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think increasingly what enterprises look for is expertise, and also they look for I would say references, whether the company has actually done this in the past, for whom, and what kind of outcomes have they actually delivered. So I think both these become imperative. It's not about Big Four, or it's not about a particular set of organizations, but I've seen spent several years in the industry, and in the last about at least 5 to 6 years, the kind of learnings that we are having almost daily in our conversations with customers is humongous. I mean, the way enterprises are really thinking about some of these business models, and they want to see and work with companies or professionals who have an in-depth understanding, not of what has transpired in the last 20 years, but what is set to come in the next about 3 to 5 years. How is it going to shape the way that they are going to be delivering on their objectives? And so what they're looking for is knowledge, experience. What they're looking for is information, and how some of these companies have actually done this. So networking, engaging with their peers, engaging with enterprises who may be in similar industries, but definitely have that kind of levels of complexity. And as long as an organization is able to present that credibly, sensibly, I think engagements are set, several engagements. I mean, the kind of growth that we are seeing in this space, I think, I was just in a conversation in an event the other day with a set of people, and I believe that if all of the top the big four, the tier ones, the tier twos, all of these companies get together, we will not be in a position to fulfill the demand there is, at least from a digital perspective. And for some of these business models, I think it's going to be in that order. I mean, the kind of growth that is coming up is huge. So I think as long as one really understands what this is about and is able to deliver that value and has showcased that kind of value delivery in the past, so that there is better confidence building, I don't see any dearth of opportunity. So opportunity is there for everyone, and there is a lot of opportunity for everyone.
Great. Great. Thank you so much, Srividya. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanchila, for that question. Any other question? You could just use, or maybe if you want to speak, we could just unmute your lines. Okay, so maybe if you do have questions, do let us know. But maybe I can just cover one or two success stories, given that we have another 5 minutes. If you have any other questions or you want me to cover anything else, do let us know. Oil India, I touched upon briefly. So this was the Ministry of Petroleum in India, which wanted to set up shared services. This was a 2021 RFP, and we participated. We won this RFP. We delivered this entire engagement for them. It's a remote location in Orissa, but the talent pool here is amazing. I mean, the kind of functional talent pool here, I would say, despite its locational disadvantages, being in northeast remote in Orissa, the talent pool was amazing, and they leveraged digital in a very big way to set up their shared services with Velocious as well as with OpenText integrated with SAP. And this was a 1-year-long engagement. We went live on this in March of 2022, and the CMD had actually done this inauguration at that point in March of 2022. So that's one of the examples of shared services. Bidco, the reason I bring this up is because of their sheer bold vision to set up a shared services, a multifunctional shared services, even as they conceptualized it for the first time in 2016. And the board was so driven by this whole business model that they said that they must invest in it aggressively. And they were not shy to take on a multifunctional shared services on day one and set it up in a captive model. So AP, AR, HR, FI, treasury, supplier onboarding, master data, all of these business processes they took into their GBS, including procurement on day one. And this is something that we went live in about 2.5 years. And this is a letter that I was really talking about in September of 2020 that we'll share with you subsequently. But really, that this speaks about the kind of outcomes that has been delivered with the GBS. So as you can see here, 50% for due payment approval, 40 for recon, 50 for AR, 70 for master data. So when delivered and deployed well and adopted well, importantly, GBS could present very good compelling differentiators. Likewise, we've done for multiple industries. I'm sure we'll share these slides with you, but UPL is the third largest agri-pesticide manufacturer in the world. For UPL, we set up their shared services, and we were the digital partner to help them to set up their captive shared service in 2020, sometime in March. And we've been doing multi-country rollouts, 80 plus countries, 5 plus continents. There are numerous rollouts which have happened across various geographies, across the various acquired companies of UPL. And this is still continuing to date in terms of rollouts of this GBS. But they have a fairly large, GBS setup. We discussed about GMR, and there are numerous slides here, so I will pause here. And I do encourage you to visit to if possible attend the GMR webinar if you think that will be interesting. We can share the invite with you. Otherwise, we can definitely share the recording with you. So that webinar I think is planned for sometime next week. All right, so I will pause here and maybe wait for a few more questions. If you do have any more questions, do feel free to let us know. If not, we are almost at the end of time. We have about a minute or so, and I'll be launching one more poll right now. So if you could, please, respond to this poll, that'll be great. Can you move to the next question in terms of the poll? Abhinav, can you launch the third question?
Just so all three questions appear at the same time. So we have to relaunch the poll.
Okay,
I'm
please do
just
that.
relaunching the poll.
Yes.
And maybe you can just avoid the first question and we answer the second and third one. Is that okay, Shweta?
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to hear what kind of additional topics that you would like us to cover in the next sessions as well. So if you do, if you can put in some comments on that, that'd be really nice. Okay. We'll give it another 10 seconds and then end the poll.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your participation. I think it means a lot to us. Thank you for your time. And we look forward to keeping the conversations going. If you do have any questions right now, you could use the Q&A or chat window to ask them. We'll maybe give 1 or 2 more minutes for the questions. If not, we will close the webinar for now and look forward to our ongoing conversations. I assume there are no more questions. So thank you so much once again for your participation, and look forward, to ongoing conversations. Thank you and have a good day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.